On today's episode of the Devon Messinger Show, I'm sorry, JC, we're calling that the name until it ever changes, which it won't. Number 9, Texas versus Florida. Longhorns fans, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. It's greatly appreciated. And check us out at HornSports.com for all the latest in Texas news. Now, JC, I've got to be honest with the faithful here. You're gonna be in Florida for this game. I hear doing some scouting. So it's going to be an exciting one, but just so you make sure you know where you're going. The game is
Yeah,
Saturday, the
talk to me. Talk
4th
to me.
of October at 2:30 p.m. Central Time. We're going to get a good sweat on JC over there. Ben Hill
Oh
Griffin
yeah.
Stadium in Gainesville, Florida, the swamp. I hear it might even rain, so that might add some excitement as well. Televised on ESPN, Texas is currently favored by 7 points. Now, to begin there, JC, it's kind of a close spread. But when you think about it, both teams have struggled just offensively, but Florida even more so. With it being such a close predicted scoring battle, are you worried at all?
Oh yeah. Devin, no way we're jumping right into the danger level already
Well, you don't have
today.
to give away the
And all
danger
these,
level. We'll get to
yeah.
that.
I won't give that away. But I think we heard it for the 3 years that we were waiting to come into this conference. And the second we came in, everything decided. They said there was never such thing as a cupcake schedule in the SEC. I was told that every single game mattered. Yet for some reason, once Texas came in, and they made their way to the SEC Conference Championship year one, people said we had a bit of a cupcake, and people are still claiming Florida to be a cupcake. The smart people, on the other hand, such as myself and Devin, are referring to this Florida game in the same regards that Hayden and Eli have told Arch to respect it, in the same way that A&M has struggled against the Swamp, even on years where they were better. It is not an easy place to play. It is a difficult, difficult stadium, and they got nothing to lose. What do they really have to lose? Yeah, like Napier's job is on the line. They're 1-3. They might as well show up and show out. So yeah, I think seven is. I think Devin had a great way to put it. In a way, they're just a version of us, but a little bit worse offensively in terms of expectations for the year. I think seven's fair. They could even give me like 5.5, and I'd be like, yeah, that's fair. But I think you've set up the stage. We're ready for a rain game, but
I was gonna
let's jump
say,
right into it. Yeah.
I've got to say, on the not the danger level, but the excitement level, 1 to 10, how excited are you to be there?
Oh, we're rocking with a 12, brother, all the way. Let
Okay.
me just say that this week I have been taking victory formation all day for all my other respective responsibilities, and I am beyond elated to get out there to get the chance to great picture in front of the Tebow statue with
Oh,
you and I's close friend Chan Mummy. So I am looking forward to it, and just looking forward to the opportunity to experience tailgate in Gainesville. First trip, first SEC road trip besides College Station, and I look forward to dropping 40 points on their head in the swamp.
all right, all right. Well, if 40 points
Yeah.
are dropped on the head of Coach Napier, as JC said, you might get a Sam Pittman result, and he might not be there the following Saturday. Maybe a bit of a knee jerk reaction and a little bit of poking fun, of course. No one wants to get fired, but JC, Napier's hot seat is awfully hot after last year,
Yeah.
kind of getting saved by the bell, a little bit by DJ Lagway, then a freshman. Now in his second year at quarterback for Florida, has struggled in these first few games of the season. Now, they have played some good opponents, namely LSU, namely Miami, both very highly ranked. However, Florida fans, I'm sorry, they also dropped to USF, and losing to South Florida is not a winning recipe, even though, of course, they're a little bit better this year. The quarterback, let's just get into it, JC. I've got the stats out here. He leads
Let's
the
get
way
it.
with 690 passing yards so far this season, and he does have a 5 touchdown to 6 interception ratio. Obviously, less than ideal. His passing completion percentage is actually higher than Arch's by about 6%. However, I do want to make a point. That interception number, JC, before you come in here and start attacking the man, the interception number is a bit high because when you do look at it, he did throw 5 interceptions against LSU. So really, the ratio is not as bad as it seems. He did have a bad game. Let's not beat around the bush here against LSU. But he's having his sophomore struggles, his sophomore slump a bit. And in terms of Florida kind of being the weaker version of Texas's offense this year, which is saying something because, of course, Texas has struggled too. This might be a chance for him to outshine Arch if he's going to decide to, rev up the engines a bit. And he does have wide receiver Dallas Wilson back after JC missing so far the entirety of the season. He started in
Yeah.
the spring game. He's going to be a bit of a vertical threat for Lagway, but this is going to be his debut. And then also the top targets to watch out for, another freshman. Maybe this is a bit of the warning sign for the Gators. I'm already mentioning 2 freshmen here and a sophomore. Vernell Brown III, 18 catches for 219 yards, and redshirt junior Hayden Hansen, 15 catches, 121 yards. That is the passing offense for Florida. But JC, how do you feel about Lagway as a quarterback? I know very heralded out of high school. I think he was the Gatorade National Player of the Year. He's
Yeah.
up there in terms of hype, around the same as Arch. Maybe less of a name brand commodity, but it's early in the season. Do you have faith in him, or is this game going to be the one that breaks his confidence in its entirety?
I might be coming at this a little bit from a different perspective, where I have been in full support of DJ Lagway, even from last season. I saw him play last year. I've always been committed to how I think of him as a player. I think he's a dog. And I think he's still a dog. And it's like you said, you take away just the one LSU performance, but we'll get back to, comparing defenses in a second here. But you take away that one bad game, yes, it's still against the top 25 defense in the country. Yes, Texas is significantly better than a top 25 defense. But I mean, he spreads the ball out. Look, Vernell Brown, Hayden Hansen, Eugene Wilson, Jaden Baugh all have 10 plus catches on the season. So he does spread the ball. It looks, I mean, if you really look at it from as a whole, it kind of resembles what Texas does. You got 6 pass catchers. No one really screams dominant. Vernell leads with 219. Parker Livingston leads with 235. And I think 6 less catches than that at that point. So I think Lagway is a great quarterback. I think the one thing that you could knock him for is I actually did expect him to be a little bit of a. I didn't expect him to be, Arch Manning mobile, but I didn't expect him to be, this inefficient this year. If you look at it as a whole, DJ is only averaging 26 attempts, and obviously, that's a little bit different with sacks and things like that in college.
No, but just
But he's
name the
only doing
rushing number because that I know what you're
yeah,
getting to. That's a little shocking.
it, it's 26 for 23 yards. I mean, he's not even averaging a yard a game, and that's including one long run of 25. Last year, he had a long run of 25 yards, and he just looked a lot more fluid in the pocket, and that's the word I think I'm looking for. He doesn't look as fluid this year as it was to last year. I don't know what it was. People said the same thing about Arch, though. They said he looks stiff. He's hurt, quote unquote, to speak on the behalf of a lot of our beautiful fans out there on the Twitter world. But I mean, with Arch, it eventually shown as a known issue that fluidity, that motion's still there. I think it's there with Lagway, and I do think that Dallas Wilson, who you did mention, did stand out and shine, is going to kind of be the key to that offense. Not just saying it's going to change everything, but look, right now, their offense is averaging 205 passing yards a game. Under the last 3 years under Napier, they've been doing 232 yards a game. That's only 30 yards, but that's still significant. Only averaging 6.4 yards an attempt or per attempt, good for 100th nationally. I just think Wilson adds that extra weapon. And at the end of the day, he's a freshman. How much film do you really have on him? We've seen it time and time again in the SEC, these big time games where these guys with names can just show up and show out. Or you've also seen it where, oh my goodness, Tracy, the Georgia wide receiver this past Saturday,
Oh boy.
true freshman, just happened to drop a touchdown ball. Not saying that's going to happen, but look, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know too much about these guys. We do know he's healthy, and that's something you need to pay attention of. But I am still in on DJ Lagway. I'm not going to fault him for this season. However, this season turns out, and I do think that him playing Arch Manning, that is adding an extra level to this that nobody else is talking about. The fact that we got Arch versus Julian, Arch versus Malachi, and Arch versus
Oh
DJ in
boy.
three of the first. 5 games of the season. I love it. But what do you think about DJ Lagway? Let me hear your honest thoughts.
I'll give my Lagway take in a second here. I'm gonna go through the stats just to kind of set the context and set the table. You mentioned some of the passing numbers. I mean, we're breaking out the stat book again, JC. Just gotta show you how professional does it. I mean, scoring
All
offense
right.
for the Gators, you're talking about 100th, I think, on the passing side. I mean, scoring offense is 98th in the country. It's a little below average. Definitely not what you want to see. And we talked about there being injuries, but again, this is past injuries. They just have not played well, to be frank. Passing offense, 88th in the country in terms of just yards per game, 205.2. Rushing offense, this is where you see the similarities a bit. Rushing offense is worse, 106 in the country with 123 yards per game. Now, why do I mention this? I mention this because Florida has not been able to depend on the run necessarily, and it's not even really a yards per carry issue, but with Lagway needing to shoulder so much of that load offensively, JC, there just hasn't been a lot of confidence in these Gators. I only say that because Texas has dealt with some injuries at running back, which I'm sure to some level has affected Sark's play calling too, and just his comfort in, some of these young running backs, JC, are still holding on to the football or learning to. But no, they've played well. I'd say, yet again, better than Florida, which we've kind of set there. With Dallas Wilson coming back, that might also play out in a similar vein to Emmett Mosley potentially coming back against Florida as well. So really, I mean, I know that. See, we're pulling heat today. There
Devin,
are
we're in sync today. I'm
similarities.
feeling it today.
There are similarities on multiple levels. Lagway, just to finish the thought, he is the guy, JC. I think so. And if he doesn't pan out in the end, I will be willing to say I was wrong. But just in terms of really his presence, you can feel it. He might not have the Manning name, but Napier's job was practically saved last year because of this guy, which that tells you how much
Absolutely.
presence you have on a campus like the University of Florida. Then, I don't know what will. But again, Lagway struggled so far. LSU, definitely not a hot spot. I do have faith. He has not had the greatest time, of course. But Dallas Wilson, being a deep ball threat, I think will help to stretch the defenses out a bit. And more importantly, let's shift it to Texas here. I'm excited, very excited to see how the defensive backs for Longhorns can react to Lagway, just because there's been some games even against worse opponents where you just know something's going to break, and at times they've gotten lucky with quarterbacks that just haven't been able to hit their targets. Against
Yep.
Florida, Lagway, if he can stay comfortable in the pocket, which I think is the big thing. I know there are reports of him in a walking boot. That might be a bit of a hokey thing by game time, maybe trying to scare some of the Longhorn scouting team, JC, to scout multiple quarterbacks. But I think as long as Lagway is comfortable, he should be able to hit some of those easier throws that have been left open. But overall, defensively for the Longhorns, one of the best groups in the nation, JC. Let's see, I got 24th. Well, no. 24th is Florida. We're going to get to Florida in a second. Second pencil moment. Second best defense scoring in the nation. Is this the game where Texas finally gives up some points?
I'm gonna go with no right here, and I'm gonna go ahead and say I think it's nice. I counted I think 4 times we were both in sync today already, just in your tangent. Don't know how many times you got in my tangent, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm actually gonna defend the Florida run here real quick.
Okay,
I know
go
you
for it.
said that like definitely Lagway's had to shoulder some burden, which I completely agree. However, that lead tailback Jaden Baugh, he did have Baugh. Am I pronouncing that correct? I think so.
I believe yes. Bah.
All right. He had 18 for 93 against USF. Great performance despite the loss. But against the 15th ranked rush defense, he still did 10 for 46. And against the 8th ranked, he was 12 for 45, respective with Miami. In Miami, though, I think that's a little bit different. The game gets away from you. You go down 13 at half. It's like you said, the run game could potentially be there. It isn't impressive right now, but I think that falls more on the fact that it's like you said, Lagway's having to burden and share that load. So with that being said, that's an area of concern for Texas. You don't want to see this be a tight game coming out of halftime. You don't want to see this be a one-score game. I think in order to have a complete performance in a game where Texas shows who they truly are for the year, this is a game you need to be up 10 early. And that's just something that I think we need to be realistic with. I don't want to see a game where DJ Lagway is tied at halftime, doing that energy in the locker room, and where he knows he can rely on that running back. I will say, I think you're right. Defensive backs could have a field day. Weather really could be a factor in this one, which is a
Oh
little bit
boy.
exciting. You know what? But weather impacts
Let's
Dallas
break out that
Wilson.
radar.
I can live with that. Yeah, we'll see. I'm having to decide what boots to wear, man. Got to figure out which ones I can let take the rain damage. But definitely, I mean, shifting our attention to Texas, like you said, I mean, it is a full-on complete team this year. Uh, Emmett Mosley, if that's where you want to start, and I think I'm cool starting with there too, because not only are we going to get Emmett Mosley back this week, should be getting Mr. Trey Wisner ready to begin his All SEC campaign back again this weekend as well. Which,
Well, what a better
don't
time to
forget,
start it.
16 yards on 80 carries last time we saw him against Ohio State. Wisner's ready to go. I think that he'll be fine. Let me ask you a question. Tomorrow when we get our injury report come out, I I personally don't think we're going to see him. But what do you think about C.J. Baxter?
Yeah, I mean, the hard part is you would figure Wisner or Baxter, at least one of those guys has to come back this week, right? I mean, even without
Absolutely.
knowing the exact detail of the injury, because we're never going to know that. That stays with the coaches and the training staff, as much as we'd like to say otherwise. I think you're going to get at least one back, being SEC play. However, if I'm Sark, I'm not trying to rush either of them, of course. If
Absolutely.
Wisner's the guy that's ready to go and Baxter isn't, that's okay. You've seen the depth for Texas at the running back position, so I'm not going to rush it. Although we did talk about some of the young guys, young faces that maybe you haven't fully gotten their trust from them yet, just because they are young. They're going to have their, freshman, sophomore moments. But right now, if you're Sark, you just kind of have to live with that, JC, given the scenario. But I think you will get one back. I would doubt you get two, but if so, then Sark has been cooking something up with this bye week that Texas has had.
I hope and I pray that we've been doing quite a lot of oh, can you protect the ball at practice this week? Because I will say that if that's the case, if Wisner's our lead back, I think Mr. Jared Gibson and Mr. Christian Clark need to be real on top of ball protection, and I think that's a bigger factor than people are recognizing this week because last couple of years we haven't exactly had the cleanest handoffs, and our running backs haven't done the best job of protecting the ball. And in a game like this, where SEC play is starting, it could be a tight game. It could be a blowout. We don't really know how this is going to pan out yet because we don't know what version of Arch Manning we're going to get. Every single play matters, and protection matters more than anything in the world. I think, especially this week.
Well, on that front, too, I mean, we skipped a little bit around, but we'll get back to it right here. Florida,
We're bobbing and weaving.
we're
Yeah.
bobbing and weaving. It's a good bob and weave. It's a natural one.
Yeah.
Well, we're
Absolutely.
talking about the Texas running game. And inevitably, you're going to have to look at the Florida running defense. Now, as a defensive whole, just the unit, I mean, 24th in the country in points allowed with only 16 per game. The rushing defense, 33rd in the country, allowing just over 110 rushing yards per game. So pretty solid. And the shocking thing almost, and maybe we'll have some names after the game on Saturday, JC, but this Florida group is really talented, yet you don't have anyone that really stands out across the board necessarily. I know their
Sure.
linebacker, sophomore Miles Graham, leads the team in tackles, which impressive as a sophomore with 24. However, just outside of being one of the top ranked defenses in the country, nothing really stands out. I mean, you talked about holding on to the football, two forced fumbles so far this year, two interceptions. So four true turnovers over the course of the season. Not a crazy number. And like you said, I mean, this is a chance for the running backs to kind of prove their value, especially those young guys, if they can hold on to the football. But overall, Florida defensively, solid, but not anyone that necessarily jumps out. Just a well rounded group. for the rest of the team offensively for Texas, Mosley potentially coming back, not necessarily focusing in on him, but what are you expecting if he does come back in terms of what that might create for the other guys?
Oh, I'm focusing on him. I'm ready. Yeah. Who are we getting if we get Emmett Mosley back this week? We are getting a true sophomore who caught 48 balls for 525 yards and 6 touchdowns this week. We are getting a guy who can serve, in some capacity as maybe a secondary deep threat alongside Mr. Parker. We're getting now a core of Mosley, a healthy Wingo, a healthy Parker, a healthy DeAndre Moore, 2 weeks removed, from injury from that concussion, and we're getting Jack Endries, who, I think that I'm not gonna say it, but tight end Jatavian Sanders, Gunnar Helm, Jack Endries. There's a progression of these dominant tight ends in the Sark offense, which I've really loved. Obviously, Endries has become a fan favorite of Arch too. But I mean, I just look, how I feel about transfer portals that Texas
Oh
gets.
boy.
I am such a believer in Mosley. So I just think that is a great 5 core to go in there with. You got guys like Baxter that can pass catch once we get Baxter back in this offense. But I really think the biggest thing for Mosley is what they've said in practice. He's physical, he wants to win, and he wants to block. If this ends up becoming a game where we just need to open up that running game and make some quick passes, I trust that he can do that for us. I trust that he can get Wingo open, that he can get more open, and that in return, Wingo and Moore, they'll block for him, maybe do some chip blocks, let him get a couple catches too. But I really think Mosley is going to take a lot more off of this offensive stress than people realize, and I'm hoping it starts this week.
Yeah, I'm excited, like you said, that last point, and that might stand out the least out of your points. But him not only wanting to block, but actually doing that. I mean, it's been pointed out by a couple, I think, receivers for Texas. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah,
I know DeAndre Moore is kind of taken after Whittington in more ways than one, and I think one being in the blocking game from the wideout position. So seeing a couple wideouts that are hungry for that opportunity because it's going to buy them some passes, JC. Let's be honest. The coach is going to want to feed you if you're feeding your running backs. Mosley
absolutely.
is going to stretch the field for Texas. Like you said, might be sharing a bit of that duty with Parker Livingstone. However, I think automatically on the depth chart, if Mosley is healthy, that's the key point. I think he's going to be jumping Parker in terms of a deep ball threat. But in an ironic flip side there, also Parker's probably going to get some more opportunities just because people are going to be focusing on Emmett as well. So I think it's going to do great for the rest of the team. Like you're saying, it's going to free up opportunities for the rest of the wideouts. I mean,
Absolutely.
outside of Ryan Wingo, it hasn't necessarily been sexy. Parker Livingstone has been the real shining point for this wide receiver room just in terms of expectations so far this year. But Wingo finally started to return to form. How do you feel about that for Texas? Much overdue, but also much appreciated by Steve Sarkisian.
Oh, I think that was a slight, it's not that he's unsexy. If you ask me my personal favorite player right now in this Texas offense, I'd actually say DeAndre Moore, which isn't exactly the most popular take, but I love the way that he blocks, not only in passing, but in the run scheme as well. I love his route running and his ability to run in traffic, but his yak. It feels like DeAndre Moore never goes down on the first tackle. And I really think that's why, once Mosley comes, it's like you said, Parker might have to take a little bit of that step back in terms of snap count, and it might be looking at Mosley, Wingo, and Moore taking the brunt of those top 3 receivers. I think with Wingo, that deep ball in that
Oh,
night game against Houston State. So sad we didn't have a podcast that week, but I think every single person in that stadium when Arch took that one look and that ball, oh my gosh, I it was coming down in Wingo, which we all knew. He made an adjustment. He made a great catch. He looked a lot more active. That he was ready to get physical in this past game against Sam Houston State. And I'm never going to question a player's work ethic. Never going to question a player's hustle. But there was a few throws in the first few weeks of the season where it's like, hey, Wingo, get a little low to the ground, get a little high, make a readjustment. It seems that he just needed a touchdown, get him happy, and let's get this offense moving. But I think that this is going to be our best chance of the season to see the Texas offense not even at potentially full strength because, like you said, we're still probably going to be down one, if not two, starting running backs. But I think Ryan Wingo's ready. I think Ryan Wingo's ready to go be the number one for Arch Manning, and I'm excited for what's going to happen. I really am.
It's about time. It's about time. No, DeAndre Moore, maybe not the sexy pick, but definitely a fan favorite in terms of those who know ball. So cannot fault you there. We are switching over to the X
Absolutely.
Factors now. We're going to do a bit of a rapid fire for these next ones. But X Factors, I'll start it off here. I'm going to give the practical answer that you want to hear, and then I'm going to tell the truth. How about that? The trenches, JC. The trenches are the X factors here. I mean, you're starting SEC play. I know you have played a big boy in Ohio State at the beginning of the year. And I'm going to tell you, JC, if you're playing a Big Ten team, especially Ohio State, they have big boys up front. On that offensive line, they are not lacking any feeding. They live in the cafeteria. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if they also slept in the cafeteria. But the SEC, this is a new brand of football for Texas after having that non-conference schedule. And I'm excited to see how they fare up in the trenches because there's been lapses on both sides, but primarily offensively for Texas up front. And defensively, I'd like to see some more just overall production, which we've started to see the floodgates in terms of the sack numbers increase, but you need to see that on a more consistent level from the leaders of the team. You know, I want to see Ant Hill and more importantly, Colin Simmons. Ant Hill's been all over the place. You know, he's been playing football. Colin Simmons is really the pass rush maestro that maybe we haven't quite seen enough from. So I'm, curious, excited to see how he performs against Florida. But my real answer here too, besides the trenches on both sides, is the obvious answer in Arch Manning. After last week's game where he finally broke through in terms of just having a successful game, he's now playing an SEC opponent that is amongst the best in college football defensively. Can he maintain that? And especially if he gets some extra targets to throw to, namely Mosley, and hopefully a running back returns as well. Hopefully that can help ease the load for him a bit. But overall, I think for Arch, it's all about settling in. You can see when he gets in his own head a little bit too much and he's pressing things. I know Sark talked about he's best when he's loose. So I think Arch here, can he stay loose? Might be a little rain in Gainesville, like we said. So maybe it's a little mud bowl. But how do you feel about that? And then give us your X factors.
Got a couple different ones today that we're going to look at, and it's more so looking at the teams just as a whole. I think I'll get to your Arch point in a second. Yeah, I mean, Colin Simmons, we finally saw it happen, but a couple guys that were getting active in the backfield last game, Trey Moore, Ethan Burke. It's like you said, those are the guys whose names I want to hear on Saturday. I want to hear Trey, I want to hear Colin, and I want to hear Ethan, and I would like to hear those names consistently. Here's my big ones where I think this is going to be the way that we get separated. First off, Florida sacks. They've only gotten home on the QB 3 times this year, and I really think that's why we don't talk about them defensively, especially in the SEC, because they're not sexy. They're not flashy because they're not creating turnovers and they're not getting home on the quarterback. And for a lot of people who don't pay attention to Florida games, who aren't watching every single game, because let's be honest here, you're not really going to tune in that much to a 1-3 team. You won't notice that, and you won't see that their defense does have an ability to stop, and they do have an ability to stop on third down as well. So Florida sacks, that's my big one. Texas has only allowed them to get home on Arch 3 times this year total. Florida's bottom 10 in the country and getting home in 3. If Texas offensive line, and I will call this offensive line out, if this offensive line gets in any sort of way dominated, hurry, generates too much pressure for Arch Manning, that is more concerning for Texas than it says about Florida's defense for this year. So this is a big prove it. You've gotten criticized plenty enough by all of us. How are you going to show up on Saturday? Looking to see what the Texas O-line can do. And with that being said, looking at our third downs as well this year, talking just in terms of defense, when we look at FBS schools, Texas is number 5 right now. Opponents are only converting at about 24% on third down. Florida is good with opponents converting about 33% of the time. That's a telltale stat. That's 10 more percent. That's potentially an extra drive or two. And that's just something that needs to stay consistent. I mean, if Texas wants to stay in every single game, that's all we need them to do. Is the defense needs to keep playing at the same standard. It's a great test, more than people realize. and Arch Manning.
Oh, I
Archibald
knew it was up
Manning.
your sleeve. I was waiting for it. You
uh,
duped me
I,
here.
I I've been holding it in my
You should have
bag.
just admitted.
He's the truth. We all saw it, and
How's that art shrine in
I
your room doing?
it's doing well. We've added a couple new pieces to the collection. Really holding firm on
The
that.
voodoo as
I
well.
think I think with Arch
Be
Manning, it
honest.
really is exactly what you said. It's confidence, man. And I'm gonna say it. I like that my quarterback has swagger.
The
I
swagger.
love that
Let's
my
talk about
quarterback.
that. People are hating on it. I
No,
actually loved it. I mean, we have seen him just being kind of internal, and he finally let it loose. And maybe it was a bit much getting in the guy's face, but the guy was in
no, it
his
wasn't.
face earlier in the game, talking
No.
his talk. I'm all for it.
When we saw Arch Manning last year, little old Archibald step up and make a 50-yard deep bomb that ended up being our longest pass play of the year against Mississippi State, and he gets up and he hits him with a little that. That's the Arch Manning we know. The Arch Manning that can go scream and yell in his face and shove Sark because they're two quarterbacks, they're two high-level competitors. That's the Arch Manning that we need. And I think that's exactly what you said. It's confidence. It's an Arch hit a receiver in stride early. Biggest thing, biggest thing in this game, Texas needs to win that coin toss because they need to let Florida get the ball first. And with that being said, we cannot go 3-and-out. A 3-and-out is no good for us. If you're Sark, just dial it up easy. Give Texas those easy, quick throws to get those yards fast. Let's just get Arch some momentum. Let's get the ball rolling because I guarantee you, if you give Arch a 7-0 lead and the ball back, that's a completely different tale from 0-0 with 3 minutes left in the third. And I am very confident in saying that. But at the end of the day, let's see how well he can run that RPO, and let's see how he handles yet another hostile road environment.
Well, to talk about Arch for a second too, I mean, kind of that loud confidence is his leadership trait. And so when
Yeah.
he's stewing a little bit, the guys know he's pressing, and I'm sure not as a result of himself, but the team also is probably adding more pressure than they need to themselves. Meanwhile, last year and years prior with Quinn Ewers, Quinn's more of a cool, calm, and collected guy. Whether he's high or low, the team kind of reacts the same. They know what to expect from him. And again, Arch is a little more fiery, so when he has those moments, it's his job to talk the talk and hype everybody up. For Quinn, yet again, quiet leader. The guys are just knowing what to expect, period. But moving on, JC, we got the danger level here. I'm going to take this for a second and let you talk about it because you're going to the game, so you're going to have a little bit of fun talking about this. But for me, danger level, it's an 8. It's an 8, which is high. I'd say it's pretty high, but we are going, oh, let's see. JC's got reactions over here. I got to bring him back. We are going to the swamp, okay? This is not a great football team, the Florida Gators, and that is evident of being 1-3. However, yet again, they've been kind of a poor man's Texas this year. And what makes me a little more afraid or nervous is that Texas hasn't played great. You know, we're not saying this in the positive that Florida's a poor man's Texas. Offensively, they've just been a little bit worse than the offense has been fairly inconsistent. I don't know how else to say that, JC. But
Yeah.
after losing, of course, 3 games, everyone's going to freak out. And they're going to say, oh, Florida is not cut for a game against the Longhorns, who are the 9th best team in the country. I hear you guys, and I see you, JC. I saw that reaction. But you got to remember, these 3 losses are to solid opponents. I know USF, not a crazy opponent. I'm not going to lie and tell you that USF is the hot girl at the dance, JC. USF is not, okay? Let's be honest. I see. I'm trying to get a rise out of you. There you go. LSU, 13th ranked this year. Miami, 3rd ranked. These are good football teams. And with it being in the swamp and with the Gators needing a win desperately, you can expect there to be a good amount of blue and orange in the stadium rooting against Texas in a big road environment for not only the Longhorns, but again, specifically Arch Manning himself. A little bit of a bounce back opportunity in terms of getting a potential win on the road in a tough environment after the season opening game against Ohio State. But I'm going 8 again just because of inconsistencies and it being a big road battle for Texas.
Yeah.
What would you give it?
I'm actually getting close to where you're at. I think about a 6.5 right now. If I'm just being completely honest and truthful with myself here, which I never like to be when I'm talking about Texas football, but the viewers I have to
You
be.
won't tell us about that
I
shrine.
I won't. We're holding that close to the sleeve till we're in Atlanta, man. Yeah.
Okay.
All I'm saying is weather could be a factor this day. That's an area of concern for me, purely because of our running backs and their inability to hold on to the football this year. And that's just been something going up. My other area of concern is if Texas can't go up 2 scores early, and this is a game in the third, we've yet to see what kind of resilience Texas has in the third quarter. We talked about that's just kind of a Sarkisian offense. So for the last couple of years at Texas, I don't want a tied game at halftime because I'm not going to feel good about our odds. And it's like you said, this is the swamp. This is the SEC. And this is Billy Napier with nothing to lose. This is DJ Lagway trying to show that he's still DJ Lagway. He's got a great receiver back. And yeah, I mean, it's an offensive masterclass that we could be on the verge of seeing. But the thing that we have to rely on is we've still got the number two defense there, and we still got Michael Taft calling shots in the back. We've still got Jelani McDonald. We've still got Grayson Littleton, and we've got every reason to believe that this defense will do what they need to do. And all that we can ask is for Arch to be a great game manager. If you tell me Arch Manning has 240 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, maybe 40 rushing yards on the ground, I think Texas wins this game, and I think they won it easily at that point.
What was the final number in terms of a danger level?
I'm gonna go 6.5. Yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
go six and a
Okay.
half.
Very
I
specific.
would say I would say 7, but because the game is giving Eastern time, you are gonna go ahead and give me an extra hour to consume a couple extra Coors Light.
Oh boy.
So I will be holding it up for the Longhorns.
Okay. You guys can.
Find me section D. Find me section
Oh
D,
boy, you
everyone.
guys can
Yeah.
depend on. Yeah, if you are in Section D, give JC a shout. Now we're gonna move on to predictions. I'll toss it to you here in just a second. With this being such a big game in terms of really the confidence of the team itself, JC, you're going into the swamp. I know you're going to be there, but it's going to be in front of a lot of Florida faithful. What's your score prediction and how are you getting there?
Florida faithful, I will say, those tickets have been dropping astronomically. Um, I I'm gonna say right now, actually, there's one thing I'm expecting. I think we're gonna see a comparable size to what we saw in the Big House last season. When Texas traveled to Michigan, I I think we're gonna see a lot of burnt orange. Might get mixed in with that Florida orange, but I think that Texas fan base is gonna show up and show out because they also understand this is a road environment. They also know the importance of winning a big time quarterback battle, a big time SEC battle right before the Red River. With that being said, I think Texas gets it done, and I do. Yeah,
He's thinking.
I'm ready to say it. I think that Arch Manning we saw 2 weeks ago is the Arch Manning that we all know as our quarterback. If you are an actual Texas fan, if you're a believer, if you don't listen to anything that all the other media outlets are trying to say, that's who he is when he's at his best. And we don't need Arch Manning to play at his best to win this game. We need Arch Manning to play at a great official level, and I think he gets it done because I think that Sark knows what he has to do to get his quarterback's mental psyche up, and if he's up, the team's up. The team's up. Colin Simmons is going to be up, and he's going to be loud. I've got Texas winning this game, and I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to be in a nice 30-17.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
30-17.
let's give me 37. I think Lagway's still a baller. He's still going to probably drop a bomb on our head, and we have to live with that. That's okay, as long as it happens once.
Well, I'll take it from here, JC. Okay.
Yeah.
We're let's get the hands out here. The sheet is down. This game
All right.
is in Florida. I'm hoping for rain. I think everybody's hoping for rain. But just from a mascot perspective, guys, which mascot deals a little better with the rainy conditions, with a little mud bowl that we've got here? It's the Gators. It's the Gators, JC. The Gators have been just waiting for this moment after hearing the talk about Napier just losing to 3 opponents, not 1, not 2, but 3. they've just been, I'm sure, living inside their own heads, but they're going to have to live inside their heads for a little bit longer, JC, because Bevo and the Horns are going to dirty up this field. And I think, like you said, it's not going to be a huge rout, but Texas, as long as they can put enough foot on the gas that you were talking about, do not keep this game close because the Gators love to wrestle in the mud, okay? If you're going to keep it close, you might as well just give the game to Napier. Just give him the game ball at halftime. I think that Texas is going to create a little bit of space, but like you said, you're not needing Arch to be anything crazy here. Just need him to be consistently consistent, moving the ball downfield, but you're not needing 400 passing yards from him. Just do not turn the ball over and throw a touchdown or two. Get some rushing yards in there as well. I think with Mosley back potentially, that should help to free up the Texas offense. And even not, this is a game where you got to prove it. And with Texas coming into the swamp, getting a little dirty, I've got Texas winning 24-13 in a little mud grubby backyard brawl with JC out there in Section D, having one too many for the third in a row.
Making it happen.
I think also, like you said, there's going to be a lot of burnt orange in Florida. I mean, I know a lot of people went to Ohio for the game to start the year, but I've known 5 times as many people that are going to be in Florida for this one. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of you guys. But I think Arch Manning, again, doesn't have to be a crazy performance. Even a kind of quiet one can still be a positive one here, just for the team as a whole, especially you young running backs out there. 2 arms on the football. I got Texas winning 24-13. And as always, we appreciate you guys watching, supporting, staying with us through this marathon of an episode. I'm sure you've learned something, like JC has a shrine of Arch Manning in his room.
That's the one.
If you want to see it, please like and subscribe because we might live stream that next time. All right. Have a great rest of your day.